Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Can I start the class? Please reply. Okay, so I'm going to start the today's class. Today's class is on medico-legal aspects of injuries. Okay, so this is an important class because uh, you will be learning about the, the objective of this class is so that you all get acquainted to the various sections of the Indian Penal Code and Criminal Penal Code, which is related to injury. Okay, you've had your injury classes earlier, your mechanical injury classes, the firearm injury classes have been covered. Okay, now in this class, we will try to understand what are the medical legal aspects of these injuries. Okay, and how are you going to apply the above principles in various medical legal cases. Okay, so these are the main objectives of this class. So various important sections related to the human body. Okay, so these are the various sections that are important. There are many more which are there, but these are the important ones which we will be covering. And these you will edit, and you must know these are all important sections that you must know whenever you're asked in exams and when you're even for your theory and both your viva. Okay, so these are the various sections. The sections pertaining to injury, hurt, grievous hurt, assault, criminal force, various sections related to homicide, like culpable homicide, murder, various sections related to the punishment of murder, various sections related to punishment of hurt, and sections related to death due to rash and negligent act, and one more which I missed in death due to dowry deaths. Okay, so these are the various sections that are important and which we will learn one by one. So starting with the definitions of injury. Now, injury is defined under section 44 of IPC, and it is defined as any harm, whatever illegally caused to any person in body, mind, reputation, or property. Okay, so this is the legal definition of injury. Okay, uh, this all the salient points of this definition you have to remember, and whenever somebody asks you, you'll have to tell the whole definition. That is, injury is any harm, whatever illegally caused to a person in body, mind, reputation, or property. And the section which deals with the definition is section 44 IPC. So the term illegal is applicable to everything which is an offense or which is prohibited by law. So whenever we say illegal, it furnishes the ground for legal action. Okay. So injury has to be any harm which is illegally caused. So legally caused injuries will not come under this definition. Okay. is hurt and grievous hurt. Okay, legal term which is there in the law is hurt and grievous hurt. Okay, so there is no term as simple hurt under the legal definition, but when people say or anybody says simple hurt, it just means hurt. And simple hurt, when I say simple hurt, it is just hurt which is neither extensive nor serious and heals without leaving a permanent scar. Okay, so these are the definitions of hurt. So anybody, whoever causes bodily pain, disease, or infirmity. So infirmity, what you mean by infirmity is whoever causes illness to another person is said to cause hurt. Okay. Now there is something called as assault, which is under section 351 of IPC. As per this definition, it says that whoever makes any gesture or any preparation intending or knowing it to be likely that such gesture or preparation can cause any person present to apprehend that he who has made such a gesture or preparation is about to use criminal force to that person is said to commit assault. So any kind of action or gesture or sign made by a person which makes the other person in a clinic, and during the examination you do not take the prior consent that you should take. Okay, so just uh, when you're about to forcefully examine a person without taking consent, just the action or asking that person to remove his clothes for some examination without taking consent can amount to assault. And if that same doctor asks, takes off the shirt of the person, of the patient, that will come under criminal force. So you without consent. So if a doctor actually removes some clothing or actually does some examination or actually touches the patient without taking consent, so the doctor can be booked under section 350, which is criminal force, use of force on another person to cause injury, fear, or annoyance. Okay, so these sections are important. uh, so it is not only for doctors but it's for general. Okay, but for us this is important for us. And criminal force, when you when a person is just threatening a patient, threatening the other person, that will be assault. And when you actually touch the patient or the person, that will be using of criminal force. Okay, and punishment for causing such assault or criminal force is about 3 months of imprisonment with or without fine. Okay. Now coming to the one of the most important sections that you have to remember in forensic is the grievous hurt, that is section 320 of IPC. Okay, so grievous hurt is will be asked to you wherever you go. So what are the various sections under grievous hurt? Namely 8 sections which has to be remembered as word by word. Okay, it has to be remembered verbatim. However, it is there because you cannot mix up any legal term or any word, front and back. You cannot change change the sentence whenever you're quoting this legal terms. So whenever somebody will ask you what is grievous hurt, you'll say that there are 8 sections under grievous hurt, and these sections are: number one is emasculation, number two is permanent privation of sight of either eye, number three is permanent privation of hearing of either eye, this this section which is grievous for a minute, then comes back, right? Erectile dysfunction. Okay, so loss of erectile function is called as emasculation. So what are the various injuries that can cause emasculation? Okay, so one is cutting off of the penis. So if the penis is cut, then obviously there is no erectile function which is happening. And if there is damage to the spinal nerves, especially the lumbar vertebra area, lumbar region from 2 to 4, there can be damage to the nerves which are uh, supplying the penile region and causing, which helps to cause the ejection. So when there is damage to the spinal nerves, also it can cause erectile dysfunction or loss of loss, depriving a male of his masculine vigor or emasculation. Okay, so these are the things that can cause emasculation. And if castration is caused, castration means cutting off of the testes. Okay, will that lead to erectile dysfunction or not? Okay, so now testes is also required because for the hormones it is an important organ, and the hormones testosterone is believed to be associated with the erectile uh, function. So when there is castration of one of the testes or either of the testes, it may or may not lead to erectile loss. Okay, so but if it leads to erectile loss, then this grievous hurt under section 1 emasculation will apply. But if castration is not leading to uh, erectile loss, function loss, then the dismemberment of the testes will come under a different section of grievous hurt and not emasculation. Okay. The second section is permanent privation of sight of either eye. Okay, so two things you have to understand here is permanent. It has to be, the loss of sight has to be permanent, and it can be of either eye. Okay, it can be, it does not need to have be like both eyes to be blinded, but if also only one eye is blinded, then that is called as permanent. It will fall under the permanent privation of sight of either eye. Okay, if even if only one eye is blinded, or even if only partial is like acid injuries or any of other form of infections can cause this corneal scarring, but it has to be hurt. So that means some other person has resulted in this kind of corneal scarring, then it will come under this section, that is permanent privation of sight. This is something called as gouging of the eyes, if, like with the use of fingers or with use of instruments when the eyes are poked and gouged. Okay, so this can cause damage to the eye and can cause serious damage and loss of sight, and sometimes injuries and blunt injuries to the head or around the eye region can cause this retinal detachment or retinal tears. Okay, so these also can cause your loss of sight. Okay, and if you look at it, these two are especially, can be treated by minor surgery like keratoplasty and some retinal surgeries. So, but does that mean that these injuries will not be grievous just because surgery has been, able to repair these defects? Can anybody answer? If surgical repair is done and now then the person can see again, it is not permanent, it has been repaired, will it still be grievous hurt or no? Anybody can answer it? No, it will not be grievous hurt if the surgery repairs it. Is that what you're saying? Please write complete sentences so that I'll understand what you're talking about. It will be what? It will still be grievous. Satvik, yes. That's it's correct. It is still grievous. Okay, because the initial injury was of such a nature that has led to this loss. And any form of, whatever surgery, even if it is repaired by whatever surgery, still it will still remain grievous because the initial injury was such that it did cause loss of sight. Okay, so nowadays the medical field has improved so much that even the heart can be transplanted, right? Lungs can be transplanted, liver can be transplanted, eyeballs can be transplanted. So it doesn't mean that this kind of injuries will not be grievous. It will still be grievous. Okay. Okay. And the next clause will be permanent privation of hearing of either ear. So similar clause, if there is injury to the ear, it can be the eardrums, it can be the ear ossicles or cochlea, or any of the part which can cause in loss of hearing of either ear. It can be one ear or both ears. Okay, so a class teacher slaps a child on the ears, causing rupture of this tympanic membrane, and which actually leads to loss of hearing. Now, this can be repaired by surgery like tympanoplasty. It can be easily repaired, and the person can get the hearing back. But still, the initial injury will still be under grievous hurt. Okay, so no form of surgery can change this clause when once injury has been done. Okay. The fourth clause is privation of any member or joint. Okay, so member is any part of the body which has a distinct function and which cannot regrow. Okay, so any part of the body which cannot regrow, and if that part of body is dismembered or lost, that will fall under this privation of any member or joint, like amputation of fingers, limbs. Okay, these are, the finger will never grow back and it has a distinct function. No other fingers will be able to do the function of this one. So if there is loss of the member in it, so this will fall under. And another one is if a tongue has a specific function, if the tongue is cut, then that will also come under privation of any member or joint. If what about if nails are cut or hair is cut, then will that be grievous hurt or not? This is part of a body. Even nails are a part of a body. So privation of any member or joint, will it be grievous or not? If yes, why? And if no, why? Yeah. So nails and hair can regrow, so it will not be grievous. Okay. So shaving of somebody's hair completely, if somebody shaves forcefully somebody's hair completely, will it still be grievous? Will it be grievous hurt? It will not be grievous hurt, but it will come under assault and criminal force. Okay, it will not be hurt. Okay, and if the nails are avulsed, then that can be, and after the avulsion of nails, then maybe if the nails don't grow back, that could come under grievous hurt. Okay. The fifth is destruction or permanent impairing of the powers of any member or joint. Now here there is no amputation of such, or there is no dismembering of the member or joint, but here there is loss of power of any member or joint because of some extensive injuries, like such this injuries like fracture with avulsion and crushing injuries. Now the limb is still intact, but it will never be the same. It has lost its power, and because of nerve injuries, the person loses the power of the member or joint. So that is called as, that will still come under grievous hurt, even if there is no amputation, but there is the power of the joint or member is lost. Okay. Sixth is permanent disfiguration of head or face. Okay, so as you can see in the picture, there is this scarring because of chemical burns. Okay, these kind of injuries can cause disfiguration of the face or head. Okay, if only head is disfigured and face is not disfigured, will it still be grievous or not? If only head is, head, if only head is disfigured and not face, will it still be grievous or not? when you're writing answers should be little bit complete answers because I am not understanding which question you're answering. So if only head is disfigured and the face is spared, it will still be grievous hurt because it is or, okay, permanent disfiguration of head or face, not head and face, okay. So permanent disfiguration of head or face is grievous hurt under section clause 6 of grievous hurt. Clause 7th is fracture or dislocation of a bone or tooth. Okay, so whenever there is any kind of fracture ranging from, say only hairline fracture to complete fracture and dislocation, like all kinds of fractures will come under grievous hurt. And when there is dislocation of tooth, will also come under clause 7 of grievous hurt. Now you will have to be careful to see whether the dislocation of tooth occurred due to injury or it was already loosened in the sockets, So any form of injuries in the gums should be noted and checked for bleeding, and then only you can give an opinion that dislocation occurred due to actual hurt and not due to natural process. Okay, so these things have to be kept in mind when you're writing the injuries. Eighth clause is any hurt that endangers life. Okay, any hurt that, number one, endangers life. That means all dangerous injuries which are fatal injuries on the body, like gunshot injury to the head, blunt trauma, severe blunt trauma causing brain contusions and hemorrhage, stab injuries over the chest or abdomen or vital areas, and cutthroat injuries or injuries which are fatal and can lead to a death. So these injuries are all endangering life. So all these kind of injuries will come under grievous hurt section 8 clause 1, endangers life. Okay. Clause 8b will be any hurt which causes the sufferer to be during the space of 20 days in severe bodily pain. So the bodily pain should be very, very severe and should last for at least more than 20 days. So such kind of injuries can also be under clause 8 of grievous hurt. Okay. And clause 8, subsection C will be unable to, the hurt should make the person unable to follow his ordinary pursuits. Okay, so when we're talking about ordinary pursuits, you can see in the images like everyday routine work, what we do in the morning, like brushing, shaving, taking a bath, eating, going to the bathroom yourself, combing your hair, and etc. So these are the ordinary pursuits. So if the injury is so bad that the person is unable to follow his ordinary pursuits, so see, these kind of injuries will be grievous hurt. Okay. Now, ordinary pursuits does not mean that you are sitting in the house and not coming to college and listening to online classes and just not being able to come to college will not be grievous hurt. And not being able to go for your job, jogging, you not being able to go for your jobs, those will not be ordinary pursuits. Okay, these are the ordinary pursuits. So if the injuries have to be so severe that you are not able to follow these routine work that has to be done every day. Okay, so these were the 8 clauses of grievous hurt. Okay, now these are the various sections related to hurt and grievous hurt, where 321, the definition of voluntary causing hurt is given. 322, definition of voluntary causing grievous hurt. 323 is punishment for voluntary causing hurt, which is 1 year of imprisonment with fine up to 1,000 rupees. 324 324 deals with voluntary causing hurt by dangerous weapons or means, which is 3 years of imprisonment. 325 deals with punishment for voluntary causing grievous hurt, which is punishment of 7 years imprisonment without fine. And 326 deals with punishment for voluntary causing grievous hurt by dangerous weapon or means, which is 10 years of imprisonment without fine. So these are the various sections related to the hurt and grievous hurt, talking about its punishment and definitions. Okay. So when you said voluntary causing hurt by dangerous weapons or voluntary causing grievous hurt by dangerous weapons, okay, 324 and 326 talk about dangerous weapons. So what do you mean by dangerous weapons? Is dangerous weapon means any weapon which is used for shooting, stabbing, or cutting, or any instrument which is used as a weapon of offense which is likely to cause death. Okay, so any instrument used for shooting, stabbing, or cutting, or any instrument which is used as a weapon of offense which is likely to cause death comes under dangerous weapons. And when we say dangerous means, it means any fire or heated substance, poison or any corrosive substance, explosive substance which is harmful to the body to inhale, to swallow, or to receive into the blood by means of any animal. Okay, so if somebody leaves a snake in somebody's handbag and the snake bites the person, okay, so this is also dangerous mean. And if grievous hurt occurs, then this will be under 326, that is punishment for voluntary causing hurt by dangerous weapon or means. Okay, and the punishment is very high, which is 10 years imprisonment. Okay, so whenever there is dangerous weapons involved, the punishment is going higher, okay, than using normal weapons or normal other things. Now 326 is divided into 326A and B. Now these were the special sections which were introduced in 2013 in the Criminal Amendment Act, which says that 326A says voluntary causing grievous hurt by use of acid. Okay, because in India the acid cases, the cases of vitriolage or acid burns or was creating a menace, and it was becoming a huge social problem. There was no law to punish this kind of act, separately. So in 2013, these new sections were added, 326A, which is voluntary causing grievous hurt by use of acid, etc. So whoever causes permanent or partial damage or defect or burns or maims or disfigures or disables any part of the person, or cause grievous hurt by throwing acid or administering acid to the person, by using any other means with the intention of causing the knowledge that he is likely to cause injury or hurt, shall be punished with for imprisonment of either description of term of which will not be less than 10 years, but which may extend to imprisonment for life and with fine. Okay, so there's a huge punishment, 10 years imprisonment, which was there for voluntary causing grievous hurt by dangerous weapon also. But in this section, there can be imprisonment for life also. So the uh, punishment became more harsher and serious as per this new law, which is 326A. Okay, and there is 326B, which is voluntary throwing or attempting to throw acid. So just attempting to throw acid, where even if the acid does not touch the person, just attempt to cause such a heinous crime is also now being punished under Section 326B, which has a imprisonment of to 5 years and which may extend to 7 years. Okay, so these are the new sections related to dangerous weapons like corrosives or acids. Now coming to the other sections, which is homicide. Now we all know what homicide is. When we say homicide, it means killing of a human being by another human being. Okay, so homicide, when we say homicide, killing of a human being by another human being. So if a tiger kills a man, so that will not be homicide, but a man has to kill another man to say that there is homicide. Okay, homo means my man, and side means uh, to cut or to kill. Okay, homicide. So there are various types of homicide. One is the lawful homicide and unlawful homicides. Now, lawful homicides are justifiable and excusable homicides. So even though these terms like justifiable and excusable homicides are not given in any of the laws specifically, but uh, understanding the law, this has been interpreted from the law. Okay, but there are no legal terms saying justifiable or excusable, homicides. Okay, but the unlawful homicide, like culpable homicide, which is section 299 of IPC, murder, which is section 300 of IPC, and that due to rash or negligent act, 304A IPC. These are all unlawful homicides, and these are there specified by the law. Okay, these are there in the Indian legal system. So when we're saying justifiable homicide, what it means is when a person kills another person, during administration of justice, like a jailer hangs a person, he is just administrating, helping the justice system. So during administration of justice, person kills another person, or example for maintaining during maintenance of justice, like suppressing a riot or during arresting a person. In such cases, these are justifiable by the law. Okay, so these are called as justifiable homicide. And when you say excusable homicide, it includes killing in self-defense, death caused by accident or misadventure, death following a lawful operation, and homicide committed by an insane person or a person less than 7 years of age. If homicide happens in such cases, then these can be excusable. But you should keep in mind that these terms are not present in the Indian law, but these are just interpretations from the law. Okay. Now, what is actually there in law is the culpable homicide, which is section 299 IPC. Now, you have to understand what is culpable homicide, because these can be asked to you. Whoever causes death by doing an act with the intention of causing death, or with the intention of causing such bodily injury as is likely to cause death, or with the knowledge that he is likely by such an act to cause death, commits the offense of culpable homicide. Okay, what do you mean by culpable? Is culpable, meaning of culpable is whether the act is blameworthy or not. Okay, whether the person is the homicide, the degree of blame, that is the culpability. Okay, so whoever causes death by doing an act with the intention of causing death, so there has to be an intention of causing death, or whether is or with the intention of causing such bodily injury which is likely to cause death, or with the knowledge that he is likely by such an act to cause death. So three things there you have to remember is there has to be intention to cause death. Okay, it should not be unintentional. There has to be intention that I am going to kill this person. There has to be intention that's of causing such injuries that is likely that it can cause death. It might cause, it can possibility, there is possibility of causing death of that person, and he has to have the knowledge also that by such an act death can be caused. So whenever a person causes death of another person and these criteria are fulfilled, they all come under culpable homicides, that is section 299 of IPC. So essentials of culpable homicide is there has to be intention of causing death, bodily injury. There has to be the bodily injuries are likely to cause death, and the knowledge that such an act is likely to cause death. So these essential have to be there to say that the homicide was culpable. Okay, now section 300 deals with murder. Now, when does culpable homicide becomes murder? Okay. Now what you have to know is murder is a more serious crime than culpable homicide. Okay, murder is more serious than culpable homicide. Murder, the punishment of murder is more than culpable homicide. Okay, and what you the saying is that there is the culpable homicide is a genus and murder is the species. Okay, so all murders will be culpable homicide, but all culpable homicides will not be murder. So murders, all murders are culpable homicide, but all culpable homicides are not murder. So murder is an exclusive part of the larger, broader definition of culpable homicide. Okay, so culpable homicide is the genus and murder is the species. Okay, so if the act by which death is caused is done with the intention of causing death. So here also intention of causing death is there, similar to culpable homicide. If it is done with the intention of causing such bodily injury that the offender knows to be likely to cause death, again same as culpable homicide, these two parts, first and second. Third, if it is done with the intention of causing bodily injuries, which is sufficient to cause death, in this case the definition of murder becomes injury को तो death cause करने का probabilities are really really high. Okay, so injury is more severe nature, that that is quite likely or almost uh, the injuries are sufficient to cause death. Okay, here our role becomes important when you're talking about when you're giving opinion regarding the injuries. Okay, which type of injuries are sufficient to cause death, or which type of injuries are just likely to cause death. So here our knowledge, our medical knowledge will aid this justice. Okay, this is where we will play our part when we are talking about murder. Okay, the judge will decide whether it is murder or culpable homicide. Ultimately, everything lies in the hands of the court and how the court is manipulated, what facts are placed in the court. But our role as doctors will be by talking about the nature of injuries and whether it is sufficient to cause death in the ordinary course of nature or not. Fourth, if the person committing the act knows that it is so immediately dangerous that it must, in all probability, cause death, or such bodily injury as is likely to cause death, and commits such act without any excuse. So this is the definition of murder under section 300 IPC. Okay, I hope it is clear, or I hope you're understanding. I'm just reading your answers, and I'm trying to because these are all haphazard. I don't know why it is so. It becomes very difficult to look for your answers. Okay, I hope it was a little clear. So, okay, next, another diagram just to show you. This is like a Venn diagram. Now, culpable homicide is a wider definition. Okay, there has to be intention, knowledge, and injuries likely to cause death in culpable homicide. And the same intention, knowledge is also there in murder, but degree of the degree of the knowledge, the degree of the intention is makes the is what separates murder from culpable homicide. So the degree of intention has to be more, the degree of probability of knowing the probability of causing death has to be much more than culpable homicide to call it murder. Okay, so everybody, if death occurs, people will be if somebody causes death of somebody person, first thing the lawyers will do is try to put it under culpable homicide because it is a much more the punishment is lesser in this case, whereas in murder the punishment is very very severe. So the lawyers will all twists and turns the events and the evidence to remove murder and turn it into culpable homicide. Okay. So culpable homicide amounting to murder is actually murder, which is defined under Section 300 IPC and is punishable under Section 302, 302 IPC. Say murder sentence, death sentence can be given, or life imprisonment can be given in case of murder, which is defined under Section 300 IPC. 302 deals with the punishment, which is death sentence. Very few offenses leads to death sentence. One of it is murder, which is one of the most serious and heinous crimes. Okay, culpable homicide not amounting to murder will be defined under Section 299 of IPC, and it is punishable under 304 of IPC, which is 10 years or life imprisonment or fine. Okay, so there is no death sentence for culpable homicide. There is just 10 years or life imprisonment. Sometimes it can be because of good behavior, life imprisonment can be shortened and the person comes out after 5 years, 6 years. Okay, so much more easier punishment than punishment of murder. Now, difference between culpable homicide and murder, as already said, the degree of culpability, the degree of intention, degree of knowledge about the possibility or probability of injury causing death. Okay, so let's see some examples. Okay, A hits B with a brick, C stabs D with a knife. Now, फटाफट जवाब देना कि कौन सा क्या है. And I want full answers and don't just write one word because I will not be able to read it and it will not make any sense. Anybody fast? फटाफट बोलो कौन सा क्या है. Guess. When A hits B with a brick is homicide. Yes, Bhuvan, you're correct. A is culpable homicide and B is murder. Okay, yeah, because the probability of hitting with a brick causing death is less than stabbing with a knife, especially if it is over the vital areas. Okay, so here the degree of knowledge of the injuries causing death will be different between these two. Okay, A greases the floor of the bathroom for B to slip, and B slips and dies. C buys cyanide and adds in D's milk. D dies. Which one is culpable homicide? Which one is murder? What do you think? Yes, greasing on the floor is culpable homicide. Correct, 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 correct. So C buying cyanide and adding in the milk. So much of premeditation is there, and you know the severity of cyanide and the probability of cyanide causing death is much, much higher than greasing the bathroom floor. The bee might slip or not slip. Bee may enter the bathroom or not enter. So the likeliness of causing death or injuries causing death will be lesser. Whereas here it is very, very high. So this is definitely murder, and this is going to be culpable homicide. A punches B on the chest in a quarrel, whereas C punches D on the chest knowing that he had coronary artery bypass graft 1 week back, some surgery, heart surgery 1 week back, and he punches on the chest. These kind of acts will be murder, whereas these will be still death has occurred, so it will be culpable homicide. It will be homicide, a culpable homicide, but it will not be murder because here you don't know. He doesn't know. The knowledge is such that uh, uh, you don't know, and the injury is also not such that it is definitely going to cause death. Okay, but since death occurs, there will be culpability. A beats B with a cricket bat, causes 25 injuries, and C shoots D with a pistol on the head with just one injury. Which one will be culpable and which one will be murder? Yes, this kind of fatal injury, imminently fatal to life. Okay, but this is also, these collective injuries can be imminently fatal to life also. So both can be murder. Both can be murder if the injuries are fatal. Okay, and if injuries on the vital parts like head, causing head injury, it can be fatal. But this is sure shot murder. Okay. A finds his wife with another man in bed, stabs him in a fit of rage. C runs over D. D is the wife having extramarital affair. C knew about it since 1 month. Which one is this? A finds his wife with another man in bed, stabs him in a fit of rage. Okay, where there is intention to kill. If stab, he knows that stabbing will lead to death. Stabbing can lead to death, but there is something called a fit of rage. There is no premeditation. This is a hot-blooded murder. This is a hot-blooded homicide. Okay, which is actually culpable homicide or second degree homicide, which is culpable homicide. Okay, and C runs over D. He knew that she's having extramarital affair, so knowledge is there, premeditation is there, mens rea is there. Now, what is mens rea is, mens rea means guilty mind. Okay, so whenever a murder charge has to be there, the motive and the guilty mind has to be proved. Whether the person had, the action is not only guilty, of action is looking guilty, exactly, but whether he, in his mind, he was already guilty, that has to be proved. And sometimes it is very, very difficult to prove mens rea. There is where all the lawyers will twist and turn the events, leading and changing murder into culpable homicide. Okay, but some things are very clear, and if things are clear, then it will be murder. Okay, A runs over B in a drunk state. B is a beggar sleeping off the pavement. This will be very difficult to find out your answers. This will be section 304B, sorry, 304A, causing death in a death due to negligence. Here, there is no intention to, A has no intention of causing B's death. Okay, so the first is gone. The first clause is gone. That the intention to cause death is not there. He does not intend. He was just drunk and he was driving. So there is no intention. So there is no culpability. So this will not be culpable homicide, but this will be section 304A, which is causing death by rash or negligent act. Okay. Whereas C runs over his brother D for property dispute. There is some property dispute, and because of that, C is running over D with the intention to kill, with the premeditation to kill, with the knowledge that this running over will, at least 80 to 90% cause death of this person. So this will be murder. Okay. So various examples, I can go on and on with that. So there are certain exceptions to murder that has to be remembered. These are these 5 P's, if you can see, that due to sudden provocation, that occurring due, causing death in private defense, causing death by a public servant, okay, in his duty, causing death in a fit of rage or passion, that like that example about the wife, and causing giving consent for his own death, or giving permission for his own death. These are all exceptions to murder. So you can remember these 5 P's. These are all exceptions to murder. That means these will not be murder, but these will be all culpable homicide. Okay, these will be still homicide, but these will be culpable homicide. Okay. Now, section 304A IPC is rash and negligent act, causing death. Whoever causes death of any person by doing any rash and negligent act not amounting to homicide will be punished with imprisonment of description up to 2 years or fine or both. Now, this is the law which can be applied to negligence act done by a medical professional also. So if a doctor is negligent, if it is criminal negligence by a doctor, so this is the act by which the doctor will be booked. That is 304A IPC of the Indian law. Okay. And rash driving causing drunken driving, death due to drunken driving, death due to negligent act, death prescribing wrong medicines, giving, doing wrong surgery. These will be under 304A of IPC. 304B talks about dowry death. Whenever a woman, a married woman, who within 7 years of marriage, the death of such a woman occurs, under normal circumstances within 7 years of her marriage, and it is shown that before her death, that she was soon before her death, she was subjected to cruelty or harassment by husband or any relative or husband in connection with or with any demand for dowry, such deaths will be called as dowry deaths. Okay, and the punishment for dowry deaths is imprisonment not less than 7 years, which may extend to life imprisonment also. Okay, recently there was some judgment based on the on this section 304B IPC, where the Supreme Court widened the scope of section 304B. Earlier, it was said when you read the law, it says that the woman has to be harassed moments before she died. So this had to be proved as per this previous law, which had soon before there had to be some provocation or something soon before the death. Okay, and some cruelty was soon before the death, or and which was interpreted as just moments before the woman died. And so to prove this, it used to be difficult, and lot of the husband and the relatives used to go scot free. So now they're saying the Supreme Court has said that it does not mean, this law does not mean that there has to be some cruelty just immediately before the woman died. Okay, but some proximate cruelty can also lead to be the section 304B to be applied in such cases. Okay, so such absurd interpretations should be avoided. Was this kind of judgment was noted by the Supreme Court. This is just a very recent judgment, 2021, which I wanted to share with you guys. So that's it. Thank you. If anything is not clear or you want to discuss anything, you can talk in the WhatsApp. Okay. Is it all right? Anybody wants to say anything right now? Now I'm just trying to read your answers because it becomes difficult. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Boldia. Matlab, it's time to shut down, isn't it? Let me just read your answers first. Okay, I hope this class was, you understood a little bit about the various relevant sections in this class. You understood something, and without going and back and reading your books, you're not going to understand it, and it'll all vanish. So please open your books and read up. Okay, and I also want to announce that we will be having your assessment soon. We'll be scheduling your assessment, and it will be on the chapter legal procedures. So please read up the chapter, and by next week we'll be ready with the assessment, and we'll let you know about the schedule of the assessment. Okay, so thank you very much. Take care, everyone. And I'm going to end the class now. How do I end the class?